right? If I want to generate and grow my business 10% next year, you have to say, how am I going to grow it? Where am I going to grow it? What am I going to do to grow it? Who, what, where, when, why, and how, right? Very simple.
Hello, everybody. My name is Irina Hotlip, and I'm welcoming you at NanaTalks podcast, which connects businesses with the money. And today I have pleasure and honor talking to Mark Hollingshead. Mark Hollingshead, he is the owner of DeltaPoint Partners. Mark, may you please share a bit more details about your company?
Yes, Yana, thanks for having me today. Again, my name is Mark Hollingshead, owner of a company called DeltaPoint Partners. We have a team of people age 56 to 73. I share that for a reason. That have worked at executive level positions in corporate America pretty much their entire careers, from 30 to 40 years. What we've done is come together as a team to be a resource for small to mid-sized businesses, less the cost of a full-time employee. We have somebody that's been in sales and marketing, VP of sales and marketing, the banking industry, digital marketing. We also have somebody that's been a senior VP of operations of a major company, as well as a serial entrepreneur that has bought and sold businesses for over 30 years and helped companies scale and grow. All we basically did is bring our knowledge and experience together to do meaningful work to help others.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. And to give a little bit of a context, how I do know Mark, because it seems like, how on earth? Well, we met on the webinar created and organized by National Veteran Business Development Council, and Mark presented over there basically his company and everything they're working on, and he shared amazing details regarding the DEI contracting, what do you have to pay attention to, how basically the world is working in this specific topic. And afterwards we had amazing discussion, and that's basically why I decided that everybody has to get the access to this incredibly important knowledge about DEI, about how you can leverage that, about why is that important for both sides, for small to medium-sized businesses as well as for big corporations. Because as I mentioned during our previous conversations, there is that feeling or idea that the only beneficiary part of this deal, of the DEI movement and the idea, is mostly small to medium-sized businesses, which I tend to believe isn't true. Big corporation also has quite a good reasoning behind all this movement and why they want to work with bigger amount of different companies, why they want to have the bigger or the wider spectrum of choice between different types of companies. So can we please dive into this topic a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I have, for the last 9 years, been working with my colleagues, which, by the way, are all diverse and veteran professionals. I'm actually the only non-diverse and non-veteran on our team. And when I decided to start DeltaPoint Partners and come together with everybody, it's because I was involved in supplier diversity in corporate America many, many, many years ago. It's not a new program in any way, shape, or form. As we all know, organizations have been committed to hiring diverse employees for a very, very long time. And it started with large corporations. Those programs still continue to grow today. They've been going on for a very long time, probably well over 10 to 15 years, but still continue to grow with other organizations.
Do
The
you
same
remember
thing.
the starting point, like 15 years ago, like where from this idea came?
Well, obviously there's a great cause to have diverse suppliers and diverse employees within organizations. It brings great value to have that diversity, right? And so when I say 15 years ago, as a leader of an organization, we were looking to hire diverse employees. We were looking to hire veterans and diverse professionals, right? And that's why I say it's been going on a long time. How many years? I can't really speak to the exact amount of years it's been going on. But the same thing is evolving today with diverse suppliers, where big corporations, let's called the $1 billion roundtable. Big corporations that are committing $1 billion to spend with diverse suppliers. What does that mean?
Every or all together? Because I
Altogether.
haven't heard anything about like $1 billion roundtable.
Yep.
So all together, and do we know the amount of these corporations? Like how many corporations agreed to spend that amount of money?
Right now, there's probably, I think it's growing to well over 40 major corporations that are committed to these programs. But those are the major corporations that have come together to kind of build the program, for lack of a better word. But there's a lot of smaller mid-market companies that have diverse supplier programs that are not part of the $1 billion roundtable, right? There's organizations that could be $500 million companies that are building diverse supplier programs, right? So it's not just to the $1 billion roundtable, and that's going to continue to grow. So when organizations say they're committing, and I'll just use round numbers, okay, just for simple math.
Right.
If I'm a company that's a $1 billion company, they may say that we want 25 to 30 to 40% of our annualized budgets, spent on diverse suppliers. What does that mean? Some organizations get very, very granular and say we would like X amount of dollars spent with certified women-owned businesses, certified minority, certified LGBTQ, certified veterans. They may say 25, 25, 25, and 25, just as an example sake, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The major part is that at the end of the year, leaders of the organization want to know that that money was allocated to diverse suppliers. Now, how that money is spent is really up to the leaders within their divisions. And I always say, if I'm a leader in an organization and I have to spend $10 million on a diverse supplier, I'm going to go to our leadership team or our management team and say, okay, we have $10 million that we need to spend with a diverse supplier. Who do we want to spend it with, right? What type of supplier do we want to spend it with? It's no different than an HR department that I go to an HR department and say, we need to fill positions, people. And the HR manager's job is to go out and find the people.
The best fit, I'd say, right?
Right.
Within the given budget, the best fit.
Right. The best fit. So they have to look at resumes. They got to source resumes. They have to vet the employee to then make the recommendation of the supplier. Well, the same thing holds true in supplier diversity. Leaders of organizations will go to supplier diversity managers and say, we're looking for these types of suppliers. We need your help in finding electrical contractors, construction companies, right? Now, if you think about diverse suppliers between veterans and women-owned and minority-owned and LGBTQ, there's a lot of people within that category. So how do you find them all, right?
Exactly. That was my following question, because HR manager knows where to go in most cases, right? Whether they have their own database in most cases again,
Correct.
or they have the external databases. But where do you go if you want to find somebody like a supplier, diverse supplier?
So there's a lot of answers to that question. One, there's 5 major software companies that people register in their portals that corporate organizations utilize to look for what are called capability statements, which are like resumes, right?
Right.
They just call it a capability statement. But other organizations align themselves with associations like NVBDC, which is a veteran-owned organization. There's WeBank, which is women-owned. So there's minority-owned organizations. So those corporations and supplier diversity managers are affiliated with those organizations and build relationships to help find potential suppliers. But in order to do business with those corporate organizations, just like if I was to apply for a job with a corporation, I have to submit my resume through a corporate portal, right? But just because I submit my information through a corporate portal does not mean that somebody's just going to choose me.
It
right?
doesn't mean that somebody's going to see you, because the
Correct.
question I'm going to have for you, I know for a fact that this is what's happening when we are talking about resume portals, right?
Mhm.
If your resume contains the keywords for which system, not even at that point of a time HR manager, but system. It can be AI model, it can be whatever. It doesn't really
Correct.
matter, right?
Correct.
But if the model or the system will not find those keywords in the key fields, and this is also important, not only the set of keywords, right, spread across all the document, but in the key position, your resume will not start to nobody will see it. Let's put it that way. The only way for this resume going to be a trash can, unfortunately. But this is
So,
how it's like looking like. This the same applies for the
yep,
capability statements.
yep, yeah. I appreciate you bringing that up because when we talk to people and consult with people about supplier diversity and how to do business with corporate America, there's a couple things that happen. One, keywords is extremely important. So when we talk to people, we say think like you're the decision maker at that organization. If you're the decision maker that buys you, how would they search for you? What are the keywords that they might use, right? That's really important, and you need to take time to do that. Okay? So that's first and foremost. The other thing is your past performance. What makes you different than the 20 other owned veteran minority owned businesses that do what you do? And it's not the certification. The certification's the oh by the way, right?
Yeah.
People want to know that you can help solve their problems first through the services you provide. They want to know that you're scalable and you're profitable, that you're capable of actually handling the opportunity that they may be requesting.
Why it is
Corporation.
so important that you're scalable? Because like for if this companies would act as the venture capitalist, I can get where this sentiment or this request came from to be scalable. But why is that important for the like big companies who are seeking for the suppliers?
So I equate, and hopefully this will make sense. Being a VP of investment banking, $1 million investment in your business is no different than $1 million contract. Money is money, right? And here's how I describe it. When you invest in a company, business owners call it a loan, right? What you're looking at is several things. Financials is important, right? But people always can make financials look pretty and good.
Yeah, if they wanted to,
But
absolutely.
think of it from when you put yourself in the reverse position that if I was going to give somebody $1 million, what would I want to know? Well, number one, I want to know that you can sustain paying back the investment. The key word sustain. Because when it comes to investment banking, the goal is to mitigate the risk in getting the money back, right? So your financials might look good on paper, but one of the things that you don't want is you don't want 80 any more than 10% of your client base, right, to be a majority of your revenue. And that should make
Absolutely.
sense to somebody, right? So what's really important is making sure that you have a process to generate future revenue too. Because if you have a process to generate future revenue, you're building confidence in the investment in you of mitigating the risk of paying you back. Because losing one client could be detrimental to investing, right?
Absolutely.
The same thing holds true in supplier diversity. If I have $1 million contract with Yerna, and Yerna, I become Yerna's largest client. What if I'm not happy with Yerna's work
Or the
and I
only one.
decide to terminate the agreement? What I don't want to do is be in business that Yerna has to now let employees go because we terminated the agreement, or Yerna goes out of business, right? We want to form a relationship with our supplier because corporations cannot afford losing a supplier either, right? They
Uh,
can't afford that
yeah,
because it's a risk
absolutely.
to their organization,
And
right?
not only that, that's about spending, right? Again, getting back to
100%.
the idea of like HR and hiring a person, right? The cost of hiring wrong person is tremendous. The
It is.
cost of letting somebody go and then refilling the same
Correct.
position is even higher.
And some corporate organizations have what we call payment terms, just like there's loan terms, right? Corporations might have a 15-day payment term or a 30-day payment term. Well, you're already providing the work and having to wait for the money. They want to make sure that that's not putting you in a stressful financial situation because you're taking people to do work. And if you're taking people away from doing work, you can't continue to generate future revenue with other prospects potentially, right?
So that you do have some kind of a runway, and preferably not like within the 60 days or
Correct.
something like that, but
Right.
rather, I don't know, three times multiplied or of this like time, right? So will the corporation check the runway of the companies they will
Yeah,
work with?
they're going to want to know, like when you register in their portal, some organizations ask for financial information and people don't understand why. Well, they want to make sure that they're doing work with a really good supplier, that they're not putting in a bad position if something doesn't work out. Because if you don't deliver what you say, companies can say, I'm no longer interested in doing business with you, right? They can, everybody can do that. And
Right,
they
but
don't want to be in that position.
but
I wouldn't want to be in that position.
I totally agree with that. But on the other hand, some small, especially business owners, might, think or even ask it loud the question like, how on earth will I be able to get my first contract if I will, to get big enough, I need to get this contract. But in order to get this contract, I have to be big enough.
So I'm going to give you another perspective of you being in the position of the corporate company. Okay. So, first and foremost, the companies that you're interested in doing business with, even though they're committed to supplier diversity, you could be committed to it, but you also have to remember that they might already have a supplier that they're happy with, right?
Yeah.
Everything in life is about relationships. If you want a job, you might contact the HR manager 10 times because the HR manager wants the best employee. So you have to be proactive and really show people that I'm really interested in that job. I believe I'm qualified for that job and so forth, right? And I call it being professional, patient, and persistent. The same holds true for a supplier. When you meet a supplier diversity manager for the first time, they're interviewing you and you're building the relationship. When you build the relationship and they like you and you're registered in their portal, that supplier diversity manager then becomes your advocate within the organization to the people that buy you. But that doesn't mean that they're going to buy you within 30 days because they have to develop a strategy to bring you into the organization. I call it an onboarding process because if they have $1 million in revenue with one supplier, they may say over time, instead of it being $1 million with the one supplier, we want to spend $50,000 with the diverse supplier to start building a relationship with them to see if they can actually deliver what they say, right? I
Yeah.
call it low risk. I haven't met too many organizations in 9 years that just give somebody a big contract. Okay.
And I absolutely understand that. I do remember when I was working in big corporations, that was mostly on the technical side, but nonetheless, when we wanted to sign the contract with the vendor, the process of choosing, of like talking to different companies through the short list and then picking one, and making sure that do understand each other, that we are on the
Mm-hmm.
same page, yada yada yada, was taking at least 3 months, sometimes even longer. And the contracts, like the amount of contracts I'm talking here about, was like 50K, 100K, not even close to $1 million.
What I try to explain to people in doing this, right, is this isn't the strategy to growth. It's a part of the strategy for growth, right?
Give
You
me
have to
more.
have you have to have a balanced attack to generating your revenue for your company and scaling your company. So I equate everything to like 100%, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you know who the corporations are that are committed to supplier diversity, choose a couple that you're interested in building a relationship with. Just a couple. Work with them to tell them what your strengths are. So many people are wide. Oh, we can do all these things for you, right? How about you focus to what you're really good at and say, this is what we're able to help you that we're really good at, right? Really good at. And you work to build a relationship with that company. And I'm going to give you some real life examples. The names of the corporations will remain confidential because of our relationship with them. But a major corporation came to us and said, we're looking for a supplier that can do metal fabrication. Well, we just happened to work with a metal fabrication company that we vetted, and we brought that metal fabrication company to them. And it's a name that we all know. It's a household name. And they wanted him to metal fabricate something to secure an area. So that company flew up to where the metal fabrication was. They spent 10 hours on site auditing them.
Oh,
And
wow.
here's why. This organization had to send proprietary specs to the company through email to the metal fabrication company. So not only did they want to meet the people, the equipment, they wanted to look at the security and the technology of how they're securing that proprietary information. Cybersecurity, cybercrime, right?
Absolutely.
The metal fabrication that worked in the government space as well had a process in place to secure that information. So they passed the audit. That corporate company flew back to their state. 3 months go by. And that corporate company reaches back out to the metal fabrication company and said, we have an RFP for you to customize these things. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to use them, because what if the RFP is so outpriced that that company says, no way, it's too expensive, right?
Right.
So they fulfilled the RFP. There was a negotiation in pricing. They came to an agreement on the pricing, and they solidified the agreement. That was 3 months later. Guess when the actual work was performed? 6 months later.
After they already signed the
After they
agreement.
already signed. Because there's a buying process to fulfillment, right?
Absolutely.
But that agreement was a $250,000 contract that the metal fabrication company netted out at 60. But now they're in the door building a relationship of quality work. Guess what happened 3 months after their most recent fulfillment? They just got another RFP. They were patient, they were professional, and they stayed in touch. If you pick those corporate organizations that your products and services are really good for, work to build the relationship, right? Because they want to, I always equate a lot to dating. They want to go on a date with you because you're a diverse supplier, right? But if you go on that first date and you never show them how much you want to do business with them, why would they even want to go on a second date? They don't have to do business with you. They want to, but they also want to know that you're engaged with them too, right?
Well, that's, I assume, where a lot of misconceptions are coming from, that we're assuming that if the big corporation is committed to do the business with the diverse suppliers, right, that means that they do not have, any other option. They, at the end of the day, will have to sign the contract. But the point we are missing is the fact that there are tons of diverse owned companies out there, right?
So I'm going to give you a different perspective. What if there was no such thing as supplier diversity, no certifications, and I wanted to do business with Amazon because my product's a great fit? Take supplier diversity out of it. What would you do?
From what perspective? As an Amazon owner or as the business owner who want to work with the Amazon?
If Amazon didn't have a supplier diversity program, okay, and they weren't setting money aside to spend with diverse suppliers, there was none of that, and you really wanted to do business with Amazon, what would you do?
Good old process. Preparing all of my documents, checking. Honestly, what I would do before I would start preparing my documents, I would I would try to talk with the folks who are doing business with Amazon to check how they get there, to check what they're doing and don't do, to check like what the documents they have prepared before they even start to talk to Amazon. Because again, I really like this, perspective you brought into the earlier into conversation about the HR, right? I've been always said that pick top 5 companies you really want to work with. Prepare yourself, prepare everything, but don't go to these companies. First of all, go to another companies you're not that in love with, and just train yourself, build that skill of putting your skills yourself properly on the table. And only after you're ready, even maybe get some offers, you're starting knocking at those doors.
And so that's what I'm trying to say. Every organization has what I call a target market. Companies that they want to do business with that have a need and want for the services. Sales 101 is those companies already have a supplier. So you have to work to unseat that supplier. And that's why I say if there wasn't a supplier diversity program anywhere, does that mean that because they do have a supplier diversity program and they don't buy you right away, that you're going to stop pursuing them? That's why I say eliminate supplier diversity, right? There's no programs like that. Pretend in your mind there's no programs like that. You're still going to pursue Amazon because you know your product's a good fit. I want to do business with them. That's why I say you have to have a balance attack in the types of portfolio you want. You want some large clients, some mid-market clients, right? Right? There's no such thing as really get rich quick today. The sales cycle is longer than it's ever been in all of my years because of everything that's going around us with the economics. Who is our new leader going to be? What's the effect of the new leaders in the United States, right? And then what happens is because people are uncertain with certain things, they stay where they're at, right? I call it, they just don't make any change because they don't know there's uncertainty. And you want to know what I tell people? That's when you elevate your game. That's when you elevate your communication, right? Because when people find things finally loosen up, they're going to say, oh my God, Yerna has stayed in touch with me every 2 months because they really want to do business with me and nobody else stayed in touch with me. But you also have to remember this. People that do business with people, the supplier tends to get complacent with their client because there's a contract. Because people are getting people into contracts 1 and 2 and 3 years. But that doesn't mean that prospect is happy with their supplier. But if you're the one who's consistently communicating of what you do and how you do it and what makes you different, you want to be the one there at the right time because it truly is timing, right? Unless you have an inside track with a friend. But even today, I have friends in corporate organizations that speak to the clients that we work with, but that doesn't mean they're just switching to them. You want to know what she tells me? Mark, be patient. We're waiting for an opportunity. When that opportunity rises, I'm going to give you a call. That's all it is. The certification is, oh, by the way, I just want to know that Yerna can help me with my investing. I want to know that Yerna is going to be there to help me achieve my problems and solve my problems.
When
right?
you gonna call me?
And the only way you do that is to stay in front of people and communicate professionally and persistent. People say, well, they're not calling me back and they're ghosting me. And I'm like, you're right, they are, because there's no need yet. And oh, by the way, there's 500 other people trying to communicate with them too. The ones who stay patient and don't give up on that process are always the ones that win.
How do you recommend to stay in touch? Because again, I do not have, unfortunately, that perspective, but I know from the perspective of the tech startup, right, that you have to put yourself in front of the investors and you just have to send to those who agreed to receive monthly reports, monthly updates. You're just sharing information like, what are you doing, how things are going, etc.
You have to also remember that people in positions today are being asked to do more, right? Because more for less. That's been happening for a very long time.
Yes.
You have to be respectful of that, right? Because you got to think about when people walk into work every day, whether you're a supplier diversity manager or not, you have a to-do list. And you have a priorities. You prioritize that list. And on that list is somewhere is, I need to start interviewing, diverse suppliers to get to know them and who they are and what they do, right? But every day you walk in to any job or anything that you do, there's always a curveball that takes you away from something that you should be doing. And that's why I say be patient. We have to be patient. and stay professional, because people aren't ghosting you. They're just saying, I have your information. If I liked you, I liked what you have to offer, stay in touch with me, right? If people really looked at sales cycles today, whether it's with a big corporate company or any corporate company, salespeople or not, it still takes a lot of effort to get somebody to say, yes, I want to meet with you. And you can't give up on it. The person who gives up is the one who loses, right? And
Yep.
people always say, how do I measure return on investment, right? How do I measure that? Well, if I've spent 7 months or 8 months communicating and it takes 9, and you gave up after the 8th month, but it really takes 9,
There you
right?
go. Right. But how do you know those benchmarks?
Well, there's a
It
lot of
would be
places out.
easier, right?
I can give you traditional sales statistics of how many times it takes to communicate with somebody in any industry before somebody says, okay, I'll listen to you. Okay. You need to communicate with somebody at a minimum of 5 times before they will, 5 to 15 times, depending on the industry. But you also have to do your due diligence of what problems people are having, and the message to them has to strike a nerve. If that message doesn't strike a nerve, you're no different than anybody else, right? Because people are looking for solutions. They just don't know where to turn, right?
Yes.
And then there's people that make themselves look bigger than what they really are, and they can do more than what they really can do. People don't have time to waste today. They just don't, right? So if you think of that statistic, 5 to 15 times to communicate before Yarner's going to say, sure, Mark, I'll listen to you. But just because you listen to me doesn't mean you're going to buy. So how many prospects or how many corporate companies do you need to talk to consistently before someone says, I'll buy? Right? Because people don't look at these things. People are looking for short sales cycles, right? Networking's important. Your existing client base is the most important. Your clients, if they're happy, have the ability to open doors for you to other companies that can help you. But most people don't ask, or they don't know how to ask, right? So that's what I mean by balanced attack. You have to have a real strategy. But people also have to start understanding the value of digital in AI, in investing in SEO, in those types of things, because you can't touch those things, right? You can't see it, touch it, feel it. It's just something that needs to be done to bring visibility to who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, it's easier, right? I'm from tech bubble, so
Yep.
I'm here with you, right? I'm a huge proponent of the technology. I I wouldn't invest. I have to be honest here in AI related companies because, in my humble opinion, in most cases, returnment of investments isn't there. The cost of doing the math is way too high, especially to do some boring operations like cleaning up text or something like that. But let's leave that aside. I'm absolutely agree with you that in 21st century you have to use and leverage all existing tooling, SEO, social media marketing. You have to be out there. Reviews like Trustpilots, G2, whatever. Your name has to be out there. You have to have all these pages. You have to be able to show the trustworthiness that you do have reviews, that people like what you're doing.
And let me tie that to 3 things: to working in banking and being an investment banker. It's kind of a double-edged sword, right? People know that they should be doing those things. And if they know that they should be doing those things, you ask, why don't they? Well, number one, financial resources. And that's why you're a good fit potentially for people, because you could be the financial resource that helps them institute the things that they need to do. That's really important, right? Because sometimes major banks might not be willing to take the risk yet, so they have to look for other alternatives. Okay, other
Absolutely.
alternatives.
Yet that's the most important word
Correct.
here. It's not about like we will never work with you. We're just not ready to work with you
Correct.
yet.
But then I always tell people, if you're going to build a relationship with a financial institution, whether it's somebody like yourself or not, start small, build the relationship. When you build the relationship of trust and you hit your benchmarks of paying back money, then you have another benchmark to releasing more money. And then you hit that benchmark. It's a relationship, right? When you can prove trust in a relationship, people will do more for you, right? It's really common sense in many instances. If I go back to organizations that struggle with growth, you got to get back to your grassroots when you start a business. I have to build my business in my own backyard. So how do I do that? How do I do that? It takes a lot of work to do that. You got to get out from behind the desk. You got to go out and network. I've met so many business owners that are really, really good. It's what they do, but they're not salespeople by nature. They're just really good at building houses, really good at cleaning floors, right? They're really good at that stuff. But most people are not salespeople by nature, right? And if you're not a salesperson by nature, you struggle. And that's why companies go out of business in the first 2 years, right? That's where I say, align yourself with somebody that can help you if you're not a salesperson as a business owner. Because really difficult to pay for a salesperson right off the start because it's expensive to have a salesperson. And it's a risk.
Absolutely.
Right?
So how would you find, like, what would be your advice? How can I, for example, like, I'm the small business owner, right? And I need a salesperson. I'm absolute trash in sales. I know that. I'm good at technology and I'm very bad in everything else. So
So
what should I do?
if I know what you do correctly, right, and being a VP of investment banking and where you're located, there's networking groups. Do you want to know who goes to networking groups? Financial people, bankers. They're required to. And I started at a local level. So I have a platform that can help you guys with people that you might not be able to invest in. That's the key. Being somebody that worked at Bank of America for a year, if I couldn't help somebody, I had a second tier and a third tier and a fourth tier option because of the risk of the investment. So I know who to go to help that person. And if it was going to the fourth person, they might have to pay a little bit more money for the money because of the risk.
Of course.
But would you rather have something and pay a little higher cost and build a relationship? Because then you can go from the fourth person to the third person, right? And then work your way to the major organization that says, I'm ready to invest in you because you've done a great job,
Yep.
right? Somebody's going to be willing to take the risk, but you're going to pay for that. And if you don't want to pay for it, then you have to get out from behind your desk and go knock on doors in your local neighborhoods and share with you what you do and how you do it. And you're going to have to do that a lot to grow your revenue. There's no quick fix to building a business.
Yeah, absolutely. But like when the folks are coming to you, to DeltaPoint partners, like from what I understood, right? You're exactly those folks who are helping with the building business models, with the building correct sales flow and relationships and etc. So how folks can find you, like DeltaPoint partners and the other companies who can do the same job? I assume that you are not going to the networking events. I might be wrong here.
So this is truthful statement. I decided to start my own company late in life because I just wanted to use my background and experience in a different way. The way I started is I saw the opportunity in supplier diversity. And one of the things I did when I joined forces with Paul, who's one of my colleagues, I said, I want to be like an executive search firm for corporate companies. What does that mean? We're going to do it for free. I want them to come to me and say, I need your help finding suppliers, veteran suppliers, certified suppliers. But our clients are the ones that pay us, who are serious about doing business with corporate organizations. We didn't do any advertising. It was a lot of presentations over the phone, trying to understand people's problems. What's their pain points? And how can we bring that executive level experience less the cost of a full-time employee? We don't advertise. We do a lot of webinars to educate people, like we did with the NVBDC,
Right.
to get people right. But we're very truthful with people. We are the people that will look at your business because of our background experience, say, look, you got some real areas of opportunity to strengthen your business before a corporate company is going to even consider you. Right. And because everybody believes that they're ready to do business with these corporate companies when the fact of the matter is they're not. Right. So we have to be honest with them. But what we also do is say, look, you want to have a balanced attack. You want to have a balanced attack to how you generate revenue. And these are the things that you should be doing. Right. It is all about execution. If there's a plan and a strategy, the only reason it fails is execution. Right? You can develop the best plan and the best strategy. But if you don't go out there and execute every day, like, and here's the example I'll ask business owners in some cases. When do you start your day? 8 o'clock. I go, it's too late. When do you end your day? 5 o'clock.
Too early.
Too early.
Yeah.
Right? What do you do every hour of the day that's generating revenue for your company? Because people say, I'm busy. I'm like, busy doing what? If there's 40 hours in a work week and you're not growing your business, what are you busy doing? When you start a business, it's all about generating revenue. All your activities are about generating revenue in an 8 and a 10-hour day. Anything that's in administrative or minutia is done early in the morning or late at night until you get that revenue stream growing, right? When I first started my company, and I just went to somebody and said, this is what I'm looking to do. And he says to me, he goes, want to be a partner in my business? Was the IT industry. I go, why do you want a partner in your business? I said, let me see your financials. I go, you can't afford a partner. You'll make no money. I said, what if I was to give you my background and experience, a couple hours a week? And this is what I would charge you. He says, where do I sign? What people are really looking for is the experience of people to help them execute what they might not be good at, because they're good at IT. They're good at building homes, but they're not good at the other things. So we've tried to do that inexpensively for people, right? But you have to really, what I do, you have to be self-aware and you have to self-analyze, like, okay, I have a 10-hour day. How should I be spending it? And if you're just getting started, and you're a year in business, every moment of your time should be spending time generating revenue for your company. Because you got to ask yourself this question. If I want to be worth $100 an hour, is me inputting information into QuickBooks worth $100 an hour? No, it's just something I'm supposed to do to run a business. Right?
That's default, right?
That's the default. And it's the default because they don't like to do the other stuff.
Well, you have to, at least in my opinion,
evil.
Yeah, but you have to continuously raise the bar. Like not
Every
only
day.
taking care of the revenue, but like become bigger, stronger, faster every day. That's what you're supposed. That's your job as the CEO, as the business owner. That's your job. Execute, right?
I talked about this with a business owner that's been a year in business struggling. And I said, he goes, I'm not a very good salesperson. I go, okay. I said, but every business in your area has a need for you. He was in managed service IT. I said, do you have a flyer with a business card? He goes, I do. I go, take the flyer, staple your business card to it, and walk into everybody's business and said, my name is, I just wanted to share this information with you in case you ever need IT support. You do that 20 times, what are the chances someone said your timing's good because I need help? You didn't do any sales. You just showed up. My name is, right?
Yeah.
If I think about you, right? You could walk into every financial institution with a brochure and say, I can help you. How can you help me? Are there business owners that come in here that need investing or need help to find money and you can't help them? And when I say can't help them, you can't give them the money. I can help you there. And somebody's going to say, Yerna, how? And next thing you know, you're in a productive conversation about how you help.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. You're
and
absolutely
you don't need sales
right.
experience for that.
Yeah, we all know how to introduce ourselves, right? My
That's it,
name is, hello, that's what
right?
I'm doing.
So let's equate this to corporate America and supplier diversity. It's the same thing. Introduce yourself, get to know them, stay patient with their buying process, right? If I met supplier diversity manager twice or three times, and I met somebody within the organization that does procurement and fulfillment, just because they didn't buy from me that day doesn't mean I'm going to stop communicating to them. I'm going to show them how much I want to do business with them. That's it.
Yeah.
It's really simple.
Have you ever said no to some people who would like to become your clients? And I mean, they're ready to pay, they have enough money, yada, 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 but you're not ready.
So the answer is yes, because we're not in business to take people's money for no reasons. Um, there's we've actually fired clients because we were working harder than they were.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm a huge proponent of idea of hiring bad clients because sometimes they can um,
You can't be more invested in somebody's business than they're invested in their own. Growing a business is hard and you have to be vested in it. Whether you outsource certain functions or not, you still have to be responsible to generate revenue as a business owner. You still have to, right? Because if you don't work tandemly with somebody else that's helping you generate revenue, right? It's teamwork. It's teamwork. There are some companies that we've said no to because we didn't feel that they were quite ready. I didn't want somebody to spend money with us if they didn't have the financial resources to do so. That would be bad on my part. That would be me stealing their money. And we don't want to ever be in that position. But what we will do is consult with people what they need to do to generate a revenue stream where they can afford third parties to help.
right. And do you work only and solely based on the, I don't know, retainer contracts or
We have a
something like that?
retainer. We make zero money on our retainer because there's a lot of people that are involved in our process of supporting a company. So that retainer gets split amongst people, right? Our money's made on a success fee. That means we have skin in the game to the success. That's why we keep our upfront costs so low, right? Because if we can help somebody generate, and again, this is a real life situation where we helped the company with the metal fabrication, a $250,000 project, and they made 60. We had a success fee of 2 to 10% on the 60. So we have skin in the game.
Right. That
So,
was my question,
yeah,
like
we have skin
skin
in the
in the
game for the
game.
success. So we have a vested interest in it. We're not a marketing company, but we do marketing. We're not a sales company, but we do sales. What we do
So
is we
essentially, you're investing and you're having some kind of equity, right? Essentially.
100%. That's why we say we're like partners, just not on paper. People could let us go at any time. They can let us go at any time if they don't like what we do. We don't hold people to us, right? What we've designed is something that nobody's doing across the United States right now, right? Because working off a success fee is risky. It's very risky, but it also could be rewarding. And we're willing to take that risk because we know it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. We believe what we say, right?
Well, if you do have all the benchmarks, if you do understand the market, you know exactly how many calls and to who
Yeah.
people to whom you have to make. Well, I mean, it's very well counted risk. I put it that way.
But I go back to that when you people's financial situations, the cost of doing business is going up quicker than margins today. And if you look why, it's because they didn't do all the things that they should have been doing when they first started the business.
For
There's,
example,
well, eliminate what we do. If they did all the things that we did from the get go, you'd be a little farther ahead. But most people give up on it because they don't think that they're going to get the result.
right.
It's it really is not rocket science. It's staying patiently persistent and not getting frustrated if somebody doesn't say yes today. Did they tell you stop calling me, stop emailing me? What the people basically say is no, not right now. That doesn't mean forever. It just means not right now, right? Same thing with corporate organizations, because you never know when they have that need unless you stay in touch. It
It's all
really is
about
simple, Yana.
timing.
It really is. I wish there was a magical formula. There's not. There's just not. I would debate anybody.
Well, we are human beings, right? We
Yeah,
would be happy to cut some corners and do
of
not like,
course.
just
Right.
sitting on the phone and just like, hello, hi there, hello.
So shortening the sales cycle is understanding potential referral sources for you. And I just gave you your referral source of you walking in the door with your platform. If you had 3 financial institutions that said, oh my God, I can refer people to Yerna because of what she does, you didn't have to go look for it. But you do have to build the relationship with that referral source, right?
And this is the
Everybody needs
strategy.
money,
Yeah.
right? Now, the client that I referred to you who complained that he didn't know where to go, we opened that door and guess what he did? He didn't walk through it. He still has not walked through it,
Yeah, and there's
right?
couple weeks already, right,
He
from the moment.
complained, he complained, he complained. I need money, I need money, I need money. We opened the door to you. You did your job, and he's not walking through the door. Well, that person can't complain then because we had a solution for you, but you didn't walk through the door, right? But that tells me how somebody might run their business too, right?
Yeah, I agree here with you. After our previous conversation, we've discussed that situation, right? And I was like, you know what? Let me check the overall like data I do have on my platform. And the funniest thing I've discovered that I do have like approximately 15-ish% of all the users on the platform who are constantly checking, even though I'm sending, like the system is sending every time we do have new opportunities specifically tailored to your profile, you're going to get the email notification from us. So there is no need, to go and constantly checking. But around 15% of all the folks going and checking, and they will apply, they're playing this number games and their performance indicators are super high. They're in a green zone. And 80% out of these people are saying that, well, we've applied to everything we could and we've
Yep.
already secured. We secured our money, we secured our first check, we already have done that. But you have to stay patient and persistent. This is the numbers game.
If
You're absolutely right there.
so, if somebody says that they want to generate $1 million, you got to say how, right? I equate. Everybody knows their why. They know what they want the end result to be. The end result is usually a dollar figure, right? I want to make $1 million. I want to increase my revenues by 20% next year. It's like a GPS when you go on vacation. As soon as you get in your car, you put in your GPS, the route to get there. I want to get the quickest route. If I want to drive from Syracuse to, Hilton Head Island, what's the quickest way to get there? That's my GPS. I know my why. I would know what my end result is. What am my path to get there? It's the same thing, right? If I want to generate and grow my business 10% next year, you have to say, how am I going to grow it? Where am I going to grow it? What am I going to do to grow it? Who, what, where, when, why, and how, right? Very simple, right? I want to have 5 people that can refer me. So I'm going to find 5 people that I'm going to build a relationship that can refer me to people that need help. How do I do that? You have to have that strategy, and then you have to execute what you write down, right? People call it a business plan. How many people actually go back to their business plan and actually follow it? How many people actually have a sales strategy plan and follow it? I don't care if you scribble it on a piece of paper. This is what I need to do today, and I'm going to execute it. And if you don't do it very well, you get up tomorrow morning and do it better.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Every day. Yeah, I'm here
every
with
day.
you. Yeah, and I'm so old school that I'm keep using,
So
and no jokes, right? I'm also the basically CEO and company owner. And exactly at the moment when we're gonna, finish this podcast recording, I will get back to my list because there is a tons of things I have to do. I have to be done today, and there will not be another day for that. And that's it.
so what's interesting to our relationship was is I listened to you on a webinar, and I said I work with clients that need money because I learned what you do. And now in every single call with the people that I talk to would talk about financial, you are in the back of my mind as a solution, right? but I have to listen to the problem and figure out the right way to get you in the door so it's successful, right? Just like
Right.
the referral I gave you, I solved the problem, but he didn't walk through the door. I can't do anything about that, right?
Same
But
here.
if people are trying to help you solve a problem and you're not stepping towards the solution, people will say, "Oh, I got busy," or this. I get it, but eventually people aren't going to want to help you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
This is
anyway,
how everything is working. All right. I really would like to cover one more topic, if I may, as
sure.
basically you mentioned the fact that like everybody is freezed a little bit because, well, there are a very good set of reasons for that. And I've just started to dig a little bit more into the data sets, et cetera, because basically we are starting to build our AI modeling. So I really need to dig deep into the data. So I've started to look at the Equifax report, who are basically providing the national reports around small business lending index and small business default index. And at the beginning of this year, their yearly report for like 2023 and their forecast for 2024 was essentially that small business lending and small businesses are showing huge resilience, and it feels like we've already passed the dark times. And couple months later, let me just pull real quick what I'm talking here about or what I'm referring to, right? So they're published their report, and that's report from the hold on, July, yeah, July 2024, and we can see that the default index, right, is raising, and it is already 3.43%. What is the default index? Is basically small businesses that have defaulted within the past 12 months, or they cannot pay back their loans. And as we can see, the whole country, right, is in the orange and red zone, and forecast doesn't look better than that. I mean, forecasts are also like on the yellowish to red zone. So I really would like to get your perspective on what is happening, what is going on, because you mentioned a couple times, right, that you have tons of experience in the financial industry, which means that you've seen it all. You've seen the tech bubble, like you've seen the mortgage crisis, and there is that idea that we're moving to the next recession or we are already in it, and that's the main reason why a lot of businesses are freeze out and a lot of businesses are out of the business and out of the table.
Right. It's I don't proclaim to be an expert in everything, so this will be just my opinion working with companies and in the conversations I have with clients that we've had the ability to have conversations with over the last 9 years. Um, I think there's a lot to this, right? We all know that the cost of everything has gone up, right? Um,
The official data,
Cybercrime.
though, aren't showing that, and that's
What's that?
interesting. The official data, if you're gonna take a look, right, on any statistics or anything like that, the raise isn't that significant. But if you will go to the like store, you can feel
Well,
that.
so okay, so I'll talk from a business perspective, right? Health insurance costs are extremely high, right? The cost of having an employee is higher than it's ever been. So people don't understand it. Raising minimum wage is great, right? And I'll give you a real life example, a lot of real life examples. I have an organization that's a pizzeria. Well, minimum wage is going to go up to $20 an hour.
Okay,
Well,
that's a
if
lot.
minimum wage goes up $20 an hour, that means that taxes are all going up. Federal, state, Social Security, Medicare, right?
Right.
And if you're a pizzeria where you're already operating on thin margins, how much is the consumer going to really pay for a pizza, right? You can only raise your prices so much. It's a trickle down effect, right? So if I'm paying more in a wage and I got to increase my price for food, right? It's just trickle down.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that anybody can live off of $15 and people have multiple jobs. So I understand the theory behind it, but there's a trickle down effect to everything that's done, right? And that's what I mean by the cost of things going up. Wages going up, means that prices have to go up with everything. The cost to people, cost of people, the cost to get good people, right? The cost of having no people, because
Exactly.
finding people is difficult today for a lot of industries. The cost of technology, people are transitioning from people to technology because they can't find people, right?
Not only that, there are a lot of, as we do know, a lot of layoffs, right?
So,
Without the last 3 years, we're seeing the major wave of
right.
layoffs across all industries.
So I call it people are stuck in the mud, right? You have so much money coming in the door and you have all these expenses. Sometimes people don't put the money in the right place. I always say, people get sold something, right? And it didn't work the way they thought. Well, they just lost that money, right? So, and it's tough today to know what's the right way to do things, right? And I'm not bashing anybody. You have a lot of people saying lead generation, lead generation. Okay, lead generation is great, but if a business owner can't close that lead, you're not getting the return on investment.
Yep.
It's not about that you didn't generate the lead. The lead generation company did their job, but if you can't close the deal, double-edged sword,
Yeah,
right?
but like, I mean, and in my perspective, and correct me here, please, if I'm wrong, I really need to be educated here, right? There always had been the case that you had to generate leads, yada, 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 but only within the last 4 months, as we are seeing this orange to red picture in the
So,
default index.
so there's two folds to a business, and I know you know this. I equate it to a payroll check, right? Your payroll check. You have money that you make, and you have bills, right? And then you have a net amount.
Yep.
Well, if you want to increase your net amount, you're going to decrease your expenses. It's the same
Or
thing with a business,
increase my income.
or increase your income, which means get a better job, right?
Yep.
With pays you more money. Running a business is the same way. If I got $1 million in revenue, my top line revenue is a million, my bottom line revenue is 100,000. If the expenses are 900, then you're looking to reduce your expenses. You're trying to find a way to reduce your expenses. You can only, I call it trim the fat. You can only trim the fat so much, unless you're going to use technology to replace people, which is a possibility, right?
Yep.
Or you're going to decrease your benefits, right? Or you're going to let people work from home, right? You're going to do something to take your $100,000 in net to make it 150. Why? Because you're not growing the million. And why you're not growing the million is what we've talked about, is
Right.
that process.
But does that mean that, like, within the 4 last months, or like 5 last months, right? People had trimmed already all their fat, and there is nothing left there, and that's why they have to default.
Right. And I mean, there's a lot more to this, Yerna, right? There is a lot more to this, but I'm trying to keep it simple, right? Because there's a lot of things. Just the cost. I'll just talk about my computer. Okay. Everything I do is my computer. Everything. I use cloud solutions. Everything I do is technology. The technology is my life. I pay a hefty fee to protect one computer because I can't afford for my life to go away, right? That's what business owners are struggling with, because the technology is the heart of their organization. How do you protect what runs my company, which is technology? So the cost to do that is expensive, right? The cost of marketing, and it's expensive, right? And that's why I say, when you first start out, don't spend any money. Don't go out and bootstrap it. Generate some revenue, right? But here's what happens. I went out and got 5 clients. I'm making 50 grand a year. Well, that's paying my personal bills, right? I got to go out and generate another 50, 100,000 so I can bring somebody in to help me. It's a double-edged sword, but that's what it takes to run a business today, right? And be smart of, people add more services thinking that's going to generate more revenue. Generate more revenue with what you're really good at, right? Stick to your bread and butter. And then when you generate enough revenue, you start adding over time, right? I always say people get really, really wide, right? Start narrow and build. It's building a company is like building a dream home, one block at a time. You got to have a good foundation. And then you build another layer and another layer and another layer. Next thing you know, you're building your dream home, right? And then there's a right time to utilize a bank in investing. There's a right time for it, right? Because if you put all your eggs in the basket and say, I need money to grow my business, and you don't have the right systematic process or approach, it's inevitable that you're not going to be able to pay the money back. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
So there is a right time, right? And that's why I like what you do. That really stuck out to me is I can help you find grants and money that's out there for you, because people need that, but they don't know who to turn to.
They also, in most cases, what I've figured out, don't know that there is such thing as the non-profit lenders who can give you small amounts of money from 5 to 50K under not that high of an interest rate. Sometimes it can be as low as 2% just to start like movement. But if you don't look for that, if you're not asking around, right? If you're not knocking at the doors, well, you won't get any answer. But I absolutely and totally agree here with you. And honestly, I tend to believe that no matter how successful your business is, you have to leverage and use all available funding opportunities out there. Even if you're
Correct.
making good revenue and you assume that your margin and your EBITDA is good enough, or I don't know, your CPA or financial director are saying you so, you still need to look at numbers and think whether you have leveraged everything. If in this particular state there is a huge incentive program to support, I don't know, let's say manufacturing, because this particular state is interested in making that happen. And they are happy to help with your utility bills, your on job trainings. They will be happy to cover that. And you're not using all this money, you're wasting them. Every dollar which government or city or some organizations are ready to provide and you are not using because you don't know about it, wasted money.
Relationships with professional people today is more important, I think, than it's ever been, because we don't know who to trust. That's why I say build a relationship with a network of professionals that can refer your services, because if you build that relationship of trust, right? Everybody's trying to sell something today. Even when we get on calls, people, right? I don't want to sell what we do. I'd like to educate people. And if people see value, then they'll step back towards me, right? And if they don't, that's okay too, right? And it's similar to what you do. If you build the relationships with the right people and they trust that what you do can help their client base, you won't have to knock on doors. You won't have to, right? Whether you work with somebody that does mortgages on houses or whether you do somebody that invests in business, if you build a network of people that truly understand how you help, you'll never have to leave your desk, right? Everything in life is relationships.
Absolutely.
Everything.
But in
People
order
buy
to,
people.
but to build good relationship, I mean, I don't know if that's true, but that's how it worked in my case. To make a good choice, you have to do a lot of bad choices.
Correct.
And to like, it's all about volume. You just keep knocking, you keep talking, you keep being there, putting yourself out there, and you just find perfect people.
If people don't have the financial resources to do certain things, then you need to work either with a CPA or somebody that can say, this is how you need to be spending your money right now to grow, or whatever it may be, right? And that's really important to have those trusted people. And in all the years that I've been in business, doing business, I went to school for hotel restaurant management, right? I worked in hotels, and then I worked for a company called Paychecks. My dad taught me one thing: surround yourself with people that can make you smarter, and don't let them outwork you. Don't let anybody outwork you. If you surround yourself with people that make you smarter and you're not afraid to work, you won't fail. And stay positive.
Yeah, you're
Stay
gonna be
positive and
just
stay.
fine.
So there's no magic, right?
It seems to me that I've talked about that with my previous guest, with Michael Testa, and we've talked about the fact that, like, even though there is this huge wave of okay boomers movement, right? I'm super old school, so I'm rather on the side of boomers who didn't have work-life balance. They have work-work balance, and this is how they get successful. There is that's not magical. Overnight success will take a lot of time to actually happen. And there is no such thing as overnight success. You have to do, and you have to keep trying, and you have to build relationship and build your company and just be out there.
Yep.
Yeah,
The key to everything is if somebody's trying to sell somebody something, let's just say somebody's trying to sell digital marketing, digital ads, and SEO. The first thing is people need to understand the value of it before they invest in it. They need to understand why it's important to growing a business. And if they're looking that it's going to generate them an instant sale, then they have a false expectation of what it really is. Right? People need
absolutely.
to understand the true value and time it takes to do those things to get a result.
That's a very
Unfortunately,
good question. Yeah. Why do
right?
you started your business? What was the intent behind? What was the main idea behind? Right? Oh, I wanted a lot of money. Well, man, you're in the wrong place.
Look, I'm going to tell you how simple I keep life in general with business. If I like to plant flowers, I'm going to plant the flowers. But if I don't water those flowers consistently, they're never going to grow. They're probably going to die. If I want to be I always laugh when I go golfing with people, and I don't golf very much. I'm not very good at it. But people complain. I'm like, well, okay, how often do you golf? Well, once a week. I go, well, of course you're not very good because you only golf once a week. If you want to be good at anything, a hobby, playing the piano, golf, cook, whatever, what do you have to do? You have to do it consistently. I wish it was more complicated than that, but it's not.
Yeah, I'm here with you. You just
So
have to do
anyway,
it more, and then a little bit more on top of that, and that's it.
so
Yeah,
hopefully I answered your question about the default. It's always going to come back with how do you spend your money? Because if you default, it's because you didn't generate more revenue. Or somebody used that money for their own personal gain and didn't care if they defaulted,
yeah.
right? You like to
Honestly,
hope that doesn't happen, but I always go back to what I know is if you're not making a payment, it's because you're spending more than you have. And if you're spending more than you have, then you have to figure out how to have more so you can afford the expense.
yeah, it seems to me that financial projection and expectation, that was one of the reasons why people are defaulting as well, because they were expecting that they're going to make more money within this period of a time, because that's what happened to them during the like, I don't know, 2019, 2020, the very beginning, right? There was a lot of money out there. So you were expected that this honeymoon period will never, music will never stop.
I have a saying: if you're gonna chase a dollar, you're always going to be chasing a dollar. You have to have a plan to get where you want to go, and then you got to execute it, right? And if you have a plan and it doesn't get the result, it means you probably didn't execute it as well as you could, or maybe you need more help executing it.
No matter like what is happening out there, I mean, in the economics or anything like that, you still have to have a plan and execute it. Did I get that
How do you get through
correctly?
anything without having a plan? You have to have. I always say this. I always say, you know your why. What do you want the end result to be? People say, well, what do you mean? Are you building a business to generate wealth? Are you building a business to sell? Are you building a business just to make an income? Why are you doing what you're doing? Well, I love what I do. Okay, well, you just what's your plan? You're doing what you love to do, but you're making no money.
It's not a business. It's a hobby, right?
We all need money, unfortunately, right? How much varies, amongst people. There is no right or wrong. But if I want to make $50,000 a year, my first question is great. You're doing investing. How are you going to make the 50? And you can't sit there and say, I'm not sure. Hope's not a plan.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for this conversation. You were an amazing guest and you've shared incredible amount of knowledge. And I do encourage everybody who is listening and will be watching, check it out, the webinars by DeltaPoint Partners. I will leave the links both to DeltaPoint Partners and their upcoming webinars under this video. Go, check, join, talk to guys, because I am sure that this is the way how you can build your business. You're not necessarily has to know everything, but now you know at least, guys, you can come, ask, and start build the relationships.
We don't charge anything to talk to people that are struggling with something. We give a lot of free advice for people that want just to ask us questions. We're not going away. I always say we're just a bunch of old guys, 56, 73, and females just trying to do meaningful work for people. And I wish you the best. I think you have a lot to offer, Yana, and I will do my best to bring awareness to what you do. So thank you very much for having me today.